Hello there, it's Alana. I'm the lead faculty for Math 131, and I'm going to share some more Excel knowledge with you. Now remember, Excel is nice because, one, it's pretty quick and easy, and it's actually a lot more useful in a lot of respects than a calculator because you can copy, you can paste, you can put it into PowerPoint presentations, you can put it into Word documents, and you can fiddle around with the colors and the scale and all that good stuff. So we are going to learn how to find a regression line, but actually I'm going to back up and just remind you guys of how to find the scatter plot and stuff like that. So just a real quick refresher from what we've already learned. So I've typed in the data right here. Now this is a little tricky because I actually don't want the year. I know it's kind of crazy, but true. I actually want T, right? So I'm going to do something interesting here. Let me show you what I'm doing. I'm highlighting the column. The way I'm doing that is I'm clicking up here on this little portion with the B. You can see how the cursor turns into a downwards arrow. So when I click on it, it highlights the whole column. Then I right click, insert, and I choose T. And then I want this to be 1990 as my starter year. And there's a couple ways you can do that. I mean, you can type 2, 4, 6, 8. But I mean, where would be the fun in that? I'm going to do more tricky. I'm going to say equals that cell, which is 1992, take away my starter year, 1990. Nice, huh? And then I'm just going to watch this. So you can see this, the formula right there. See, A2 take away 1990, right? And I basically want to do that all the way around because 1990 is my starter year. So if you click up on the box that has the cell in it, and then you move your cursor down here to the right, see how it turns into this plus sign if you get to the bottom right corner? If you let it hover over that little black box in the bottom right corner, it's called a handle. It turns into a handle. And then if I click, hold down my left mouse button and drag it down and lift up, there they are, all calculated. Nice, huh? Very nice. All right, so it's beautiful, and it means that I don't have to do all the math in my head. Once I do it once, then I can just drag it down, and it figures them all out for me. Nicey nice. All right, so then I'm going to highlight this data. It doesn't really matter if you start in the top left corner and highlight it all or the bottom right corner and highlight it all. It's fine. Go to Insert, Scatter. Oops, let me make this bigger so you can see. Insert, Scatter, right there. That's what we want. And let's just remind ourselves we'd get rid of the legend most of the time, not always, but we got rid of it here because we just don't need it. And this was the burglary rate, if I could spell burglary rate. And this was per 100,000. And that's actually kind of important. You always want to put in units like that if they give you some. Rates in particular for things that are real life, they often will have things like per 1,000 people, per 10,000 people, that kind of thing. All right, and then our horizontal axis, this was years since 1990, right? You don't want to just say year because year is no good. We're not talking about year 5. We're talking about year 1995. So you have to say this since 1990. If you like, you can put it in parentheses. Oops, if I double click, then I can actually edit it right down in here in this little box. There we go, since 1990. And then what was this? This was the FBI burglary rate. Let me go back to the notes real quick. This was the FBI burglary rates for different years. So I can just say FBI burglary, if I could spell the word burglary, rate over time or something like that. I'm just giving it a title. Cool. And then we already learned how to add in major grid lines. We could add in minor grid lines. We can add in minor grid lines over here. Oh, the scale there is terrible. Let me, oops, I don't want the chart area. Hold on, let me click on the axis, right click. There's another way to do this. Hold on, let me remind myself. There it is. Okay, sorry, I've forgotten. So if I go here to layout and you click axes, you can actually edit them that way. If you don't want to do the click thing, I usually, because it's just the way I think of it, I click on it, right click and click format axis. But you could also do it up here in the layout if you click on axes and say horizontal axis and you go down here to primary horizontal axis options. It's the same menu. And you say, okay, my horizontal axis is pretty good, but I want that, where is it? The line style. I want that to be thicker, you know, something like that. And then I can see the options. The ticks are 5 and 1. I think that's actually pretty good, so I'm going to close that. And then I'm going to go over here in my vertical axis. And again, you could do it by clicking and then right clicking and then just selecting, oopsie, right clicking on the axis and click format axis. Or if that's kind of funky for you, you can do vertical axis here. You can also, as you can see, fiddle around with the grid lines. You can mess around with all that stuff in there. There's a lot of options in this thing. All right, so we want our vertical axis options. And I'm going to change it so that my minor ones are worth 100. That way I won't have so many lines all over the place in my grid. And I'm going to change my line style here to 1.5 and then close. And there we go. And I don't like those dots. I don't want them blue. Blue is boring. So I'm going to choose marker fill, solid, and I want to pick red. Nah, that's not pretty. How about purple? You see, you can play around in here for hours. It's really kind of sad, you know. If you're a math nerd like me, you could spend way too much time picking your colors for your dots. All right, so I've got blue lined pink dots. And if you don't like that, you can go back in and change the lines. Solid, they're currently, you know, whatever color, etc., etc., etc. Oops, that added a line. I don't want that. Sorry. Let me go to no line. I don't want to connect the dots. This isn't a jigsaw thing. So marker line. There we go. So how do the markers get lined? They're currently lined with blue, etc., etc. So you can fiddle around with all of these things all over the place. Cool, huh? All right, so I've got my graphs, my dots. Have a good time. Fiddle around with the design until your cows come home. It's all good. Okay. So then I want to add the regression line. So everything up to this point was review, just kind of review of how to make a scatter plot, how to fiddle around with the lines, how to mess around with the axes, all that good stuff. And now I'm going to show you how to actually make the line. So you click on your points. You see how it's got all of them? If you click too many times, then it'll only select one of them, and that's no good. See that? See how it only that one has a little box around it? Actually, let me make this bigger so you can see maybe a little bit better. So sorry, I'm just gonna all right, so if I click on it again, see how it's got all of them in there? Every little one's got their little box. And then I right click and I want to add a trend line. See that right there? There you go. So it's adding it. Now, we're actually going to work with a couple of these over the course of Math 131, but in chapters 1, 2, and 3, we're interested in linear stuff. So you're going to select linear. And if you like, it'll even display the equation on your chart. So if you click this little box down here, it'll display the equation on the chart. Cool, huh? And you can move that equation around. You can go to the home ribbon. See how that box is still selected? See that? So if I make it go to 12 font, it makes it that. I can bold it. I can italicize it. Not that I would want to, right? So I can kind of make it bigger, right? So you can fiddle around with that little text box and make it do different stuff. Nice, huh? If you want to have, you know, some kind of automatic fill, if you want to, ooh, look, it's filling it purple. I want to fill it white, etc. So you can fiddle around with the equation box itself. Nice. One other thing, because this is so simple. I mean, I don't know if you caught that, but you enter the data, you make a scatter plot, you right click on the data, add trend line, linear, display your equation, done. Nice, huh? Now, suppose you want to edit it. Suppose you're like, oh, I made that equation, but I want to do something. So if you click on it, it's kind of hard to see, but the little dots at the end are highlighted, meaning I've selected that trend line. If I double click, I can go back to the equation thing and kind of mess around with it a little bit. Look at the trend line options. I mean, one thing you might want to do is you might want to add in the forward and backwards motion. So let me double click here. Yeah, see, there's the display equation. So you say, look, it stops right where my data stops, and it stops right where my data stops over here. But suppose I want to actually like go back a little bit and go forward a bit. So backwards, I'm at 2 right here. So what if I want to go back 2 units, right? Oh, I mean, that's forward, back. There we go. Backward 2 units. See how it extended it? And actually I did forward 2 units. See, there was the last point for my data dot, and it went 1, 2 more. I could go forward 4 units. And then see, it's automatically adjusting the scale to see more of the picture. Let me go back. Let's see, right click. Actually, let me check one thing real quick. I thought so. So I tend to do this with the clicking thing. I just kind of click on it and then right click and format that trend line, right? So that's one way. There is also this thing up here where you can kind of select your trend line. It's in the layout menu. And remember, those menus don't exist if you're not in the chart. So if I click off the chart, all that stuff disappeared. Then I click on the chart and then the chart tools show up. Then I can say, okay, I want to look at those trend line options again, you know, that kind of thing, right? So, oops, I have too many trend lines in there. Oops. I have too many trend lines. That's okay. So if you, what's happening is it actually has two lines on top of each other and it can't figure out which one I want to edit or whatever. You know, it happens. So I can delete, you know, one of the trend lines and try to fiddle with it. But anyway, so I've got my trend line. I'm going to double click. You can see it's the good one because it's got the equation displayed, and that's the one that has the equation displayed. And then let's see, what else could I do? Oh, I could go backwards 4 units. Let me show you what happens. See, look, it went back to negative land, which actually exists because, you know, burglary happened before 1990. Remember, your 0 year is 1990. So you could go back to the 1980s. That's what's over here. So like this is 1985 over here. So you can have your line extend. Just keep in mind that if it extends past the y-axis, then you're going to start seeing negative values. That's cool, right? So you can keep going and going like this for a long time, right? So I could have it go forward 10 units and so on. And it keeps adjusting that horizontal scale. But the equation itself never changed it, right? It just drew it originally from this region right over here to this region over here. And then by fiddling around with the forward and backward, I'm extending it further than it originally would go. Right? Okay, so let's do a quick recap. You enter your data, you find your new t values. I did it the crafty way with the whole formula thing, but if you just want to type them, that's fine. You click, I'll make this go away. You highlight the data, click Insert, Scattergram, Enter. I hate the legend over there, so I get rid of it. But all you have, I mean, you could do it right here. Right click, add trend line, display the equation, close. There you go. It's not as pretty as this other one, right? But it's done, right? So you have your dots, you have your equation, diggity done, right? Now, I would say that you always want to have axis titles. So you should put those in. But other than that, this is all you need. This is as basic as you can get. So burglary rate per 100,000. Hold on, let me enter these titles. Hold on one second. Oh, here, I'll show you. And then I could do a horizontal axis. This was years since 1990. And then up here, I just title it FBI burglary rates. Something like that. Okay, this is as basic as you can get. You've got to have titles. You have to. I mean, that's just standard good quality procedure. So you want to have titles for your axes, good title for your chart. You got your scale, you got your dots, you got your equation, done. And then if you want to get more fancy, as you know, you can fiddle around here for a long time, changing your dots. You can make every dot its own color. I mean, you can really mess around. You can extend the line or not extend the line. You can make it bold, not make it bold. I mean, you can play for quite some time with these chart options. Okay, but you don't have to. If all you're looking for is a basic graph and a basic linear equation line, you've got it. There's the regression line. And by the way, did you catch how fast that was? I mean, the calculator has this whole like rigmarole where you have to do the linear regression and store the equation and all this jazz. But Excel doesn't. You enter your data, you make a graph, you right click, add trend line, done, right? That's all you have to do. It's that simple. All right, I hope that helps you feel confident with making a trend line, right? A regression line in Excel and how to find its equation. It's very fast. And I also hope it helped you review how to make those scatter plots and make them pretty so that when your science teachers want you to make a pretty graph, you know how. I'll see you here for more videos later.